Hey, welcome back to your Dream Coach podcast. I'm Shayla Wey, and today's episode is one I think a lot of you have been waiting for without knowing you were even waiting for it. Last episode, we talked about stop apologizing for your dreams and say the full version, lead from it. And I meant every word of that. The world needs more people willing to claim their big vision without hedging it. But I also know that for a lot of the ambitious people listening to this, the real question underneath that is, okay, but how do I actually build something big without running myself into the ground in the process? Because I've been trying to build big, and right now I'm exhausted. And I'm starting to wonder if this is just what it costs. So today's episode is my answer to that question. And the short answer is, it does not have to cost you that. Not if you understand the pace that actually sustains a dream versus the pace that quietly destroys it. So let's get into it. Well, I want to start by naming something that I think is one of the most damaging ideas in entrepreneurship culture right now. And that is the idea that burnout is proof of commitment. You hear it everywhere. The founder who is proud of how many hours they're working, the leader who wears their exhaustion like a badge, the posts about grinding before the sun comes up and after it goes down, the implicit cultural message that if you are not running on empty, you are not hardly working even enough. And that the cost of the dream is supposed to be your health, your relationships, your rest, and your joy. And I want to say this as clearly as I know how to. Burnout is not a badge of commitment. It is a leadership failure, not because you are weak, not because you are resilient enough, but because a leader who burns out cannot lead people. A founder who runs themselves into the ground cannot build. And the dream does not get built faster because you depleted yourself to get there. In most cases, it gets built slower because depletion creates poor decisions, narrow thinking, reactive leadership, and a culture that mirrors the exhaustion at the top. The hustle culture narrative has convinced an entire generation of entrepreneurs that the way to build something big is to sacrifice everything else until it's done. But the most enduring businesses, the most impactful leaders, and the most sustained growth I've ever witnessed has never come from people who burned brightest and fastest. It comes from people who found a pace they could sustain and held it long after everyone else had either given up or burned out. So the goal is not to burn the brightest. The goal is to still be burning 10 years from now. And so I want to get specific about what burnout actually costs, because I think most people in the middle of it are not tracking the full bill. They see the hours going in and they do not always see what is coming out. And it costs you clarity. The first thing that goes when you are running on depletion is your ability to think clearly, not your ability to be busy. You can be extremely busy while burned out, but the quality of the thinking behind the activity degrades significantly. The strategic clarity that you need to make good decisions, to see around corners, to sense what the business needs next, requires a kind of cognitive spaciousness that depletion simply does not allow. You end up working harder and harder on the things because you no longer have the clarity to see what the right things are. And it can cost you your team. We've talked throughout this season about the fact that your energy is contagious. Your leadership energy sets the thermostat for your entire team. When you are burned out, that burnout spreads. Your team picks up the anxiety, the depletion, the sense that there is never enough time and nothing is ever enough. The people on your team, the ones with options, will quietly start to wonder if this is what it always feels like here. And some of them will leave, not dramatically, just gradually, choosing something that does not cost them as much of themselves. And it costs you the dream itself. This is the one that matters most and the one people least expect. You start working this hard because of the dream, because of what you are building and why it matters, and what you want your life and business to look like. But burnout has a way of slowly severing you from all of that. The dream that once lit you up starts to feel like a source of pressure instead of a source of energy. The version that used to pull you forward starts to feel a weight you are dragging. And one day you look up and you realize that you've built something significant and you cannot remember why you wanted it. That is not a price worth paying. That is not commitment. That is losing the thing you are working toward in the process of trying to reach it. So what does a sustainable pace actually look like? Not the slow pace, not the comfortable pace, the pace that lets you build something genuinely big without hollowing yourself out in the process. Well, here are the 4 principles that I have seen define it in the leaders I most admire. Principle number 1 is to protect your energy like it is your most valuable business asset, because it is. Most founders protect their revenue, their brand, their client relationships, their team. They will fight hard to protect the things that feel like business assets, but they will never give their energy away to anyone who asks for it, say yes to everything, fill every available hour, and treat rest as laziness rather than strategy. Your energy is the engine of everything else. Your decisions run on it. Your leadership runs on it. Your creativity, your vision, your ability to see clearly and lead boldly, all of it runs on your energy. And when the energy runs dry, nothing else works the way it should. This means rest is not optional. It is not self-indulgence. It is maintenance on the most important asset in your business. Sleep, recovery, time away from the work, physical movement, the relationships that refuel you rather than drain you. These are not lifestyle choices. They are strategic investments in your capacity to leave. Principle number 2 is to build at the speed of sustainability, not the speed of urgency. One of the things that drives unsustainable pace is urgency. The sense that it all needs to happen now, that the window is closing, that if you are not moving at maximum speed at all times, you are falling behind. But most of the urgency entrepreneurs feel is manufactured, not by external reality, but by internal anxiety, by comparison to other people's timelines, by a fear that if things do not happen fast enough, they will not happen at all. The truth is that most meaningful things take longer than we want them to and shorter than we fear they will. And the founder who builds at a pace they can sustain, who is still in the game in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, almost always ends up further ahead than the one who sprinted at maximum capacity for 2 years and then collapsed or quit. The dream is not a sprint. It's not even a marathon with the finish line. It is a practice, a long game, and the pace that wins the long game is not the fastest one. It is the one that you can keep. Principle number 3 is let the dream set the direction, not the deadline. Here's a subtle but important shift. When the dream becomes a deadline, everything about how you pursue it changes. It becomes pressure instead of pull. It starts to feel like something you're racing toward instead of something you're growing into. And that shift from pull to pressure is one of the earliest signs that the pace has become unsustainable. And the dream is supposed to be a compass, not a countdown timer. It tells you where you are going and not how fast you need to get there. And when you can hold it that way as direction rather than deadline, something in the pace naturally regulates. You still move with intention, you still push when it matters, but you stop running from a sense of not enough and start moving toward a sense of real purpose. That is a completely different quality of effort, and it is one that you can really sustain indefinitely. And then principle number 4 is to build systems that carry the load, not just willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. Every leader has it, and every leader runs out of it if they are relying on it exclusively to hold their business together. The founder who is personally holding every thread, making every decision, being present for every client interaction, manually executing every process, that founder is not just overworked. They are building on a foundation that requires them to be superhuman indefinitely. And nobody is superhuman indefinitely. Sustainable pace requires systems, not complicated systems, not expensive software, repeatable processes, clear decision-making frameworks, a team that can carry defined areas without escalating everything, standard operating rhythms that run whether you're in peak form or not. And these are not nice to-haves. They are what the pace requires, because the alternative is you, personally, as the only thing standing between the business and its next crisis. And that is not a pace, that is a countdown. So we've talked about this across several episodes this year. The culture episode, the bottleneck episode, the stepping away episode. Building systems is how you build a business that can run at a sustainable pace without depending on your whole personal heroics every single day. So I want to close with something simple. You are allowed to build something big. And you are allowed to not destroy yourself doing it. Those two things are not in conflict. They are not competing values. The choice between ambition and sustainability is a false one. And the entrepreneurship culture that keeps presenting it as a choice is lying to you. The most powerful leaders I know, the ones building the most enduring things, are not the ones grinding the hardest. They are the ones who figured out their sustainable pace and held it with conviction, who protected their energy, built their systems, led from their dream as a direction rather than a deadline, and kept going long after the people who outpaced them early had run out of the road. And that can be you. It's not about working less. It's not about working from a place that actually lasts. It's about working from a place that actually lasts. And that is the pace that sustains a dream. And that is the pace I want for you. So if this episode helped you today, share it with someone who you know is running a little too fast right now. They need permission to find their pace. And if you've not left a review on Apple Podcast yet, 3 minutes and a few honest words would genuinely help so many people find this show. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time on your Dream Coach podcast.